I want to show you one of my favorite exercises for improving hip mobility. It's called the Isometric Horse Stance Pull, and this is what it looks like. It's kind of like a sumo deadlift, but with completely different intentions to bias the stimulus towards flexibility gains. And in my opinion, this is one of the best ways for beginners to learn how to apply loaded stretching, which is an important tool for progressively overloading your flexibility. By the way, progressive overload is just a fancy way to say making shit harder to intensify the stimulus so that we can keep improving. And the reason this exercise is so good for learning how to apply loaded stretching is because if things get a little bit too intense, all you have to do is drop the bar. So first things first, we need to understand how to set up the horse stance and what attributes of the position that we need to follow and maintain. We have a 3-step stance, a 5-step stance, and a 7-step stance. Starting with our feet together, we're going to kick our heels out, that's step 1, kick our toes out, that's going to be step 2, and then kick our heels out again. This is going to be our 3-step stance, and then from here we're going to want to rotate our toes outward as much as possible so that we can find a more externally rotated position in the hips. And what that's going to do is as we start to squat down, this is going to help facilitate allowing us to keep the knees a lot more open outwards so that we can extend the hips further forward and find a more lengthened position of the groin. Then the other attribute of the position that we want to fight for and try to maximize as much as possible is going to be finding a strong anterior pelvic tilt. So to do that, you want to think about drawing the hips into a more flexed position and really just rotating the top of your pelvis further forwards so that we can find a more anteriorly tilted position of the pelvis, which you should find creates a little bit of an arch in the low back. And the 5-step and 7-step stance are literally just applying the exact same attributes to a wider stance width so that we're working through a larger range of motion to advance and progress the exercise. By the way, if you want to learn more about the horse stance itself, I will attach a link in the description of this video to another video I made that goes over the horse stance position in a lot more detail so that you can better understand the position and apply better intentions when we start loading it up with this exercise right here. So now that you understand the basic attributes of the horse stance, we need to grab a bar and load it up. Now what we're doing with this exercise is isometrically holding our end range under load, using the weight and the bar itself to leverage us into a greater range of motion and strengthen that range. So I'm going to demonstrate here from a 3-step stance because that is where most people are generally going to be starting. But keep in mind that the only difference between the 3-step, 5-step, and 7-step is literally that you're just working from a wider position. So feet together, we're going to get into our horse stance, 2-step, 3-step. Remember, kick our feet out as wide as possible. We're then going to reach down, grab the bar, pull it into us, and then pull up into our isometric position. As we're holding the loaded stretch, we want to think about punching the arms down with a proud chest, pulling the bar into our shins to help open up the knees and extend our hips further, and finding our strongest anterior pelvic tilt. We can either hold the stretch under load for 10 to 30 seconds, or we can perform a mechanical drop set, which would be holding the loaded stretch for 10 to 20 seconds and then dropping the weight and holding our best body weight position for another 10 to 20 seconds. And then when it comes to progressively overloading this exercise, my recommendation would be to start in whatever stance width feels most appropriate for your current level of ability, and then gradually working your way up to around 40 to 50% of your body weight in additional load on the bar. And once you've hit that milestone of approximately 40 to 50% of your body weight at whatever stance width you're currently working at, we can then look to drop the weight down a little bit, expand into a wider stance, work through a larger range of motion, and then gradually work our way back up to that same weight load. And then we can just rinse and repeat over time to gradually work our way into wider stances. But what's cool about this exercise is that it can easily be scaled up to elite levels of strength and flexibility, because with the barbell, you can realistically add as much weight to it as you want. So there's no real limitation as to how strong we can get in these end range fully lengthened positions. I would recommend hitting about 3 to 5 sets of this exercise once or twice per week and aiming to accumulate 20 to 40 seconds of time under tension per set. This one can easily be added as accessory work to a strength and conditioning session, or it can be your primary active flexibility exercise in a flexibility session, let's say if you're training towards a side split, for example. So I hope this exercise serves you well. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you're looking for more flexibility content just like this. I'll see you in the next video.